Hello, and welcome to Tiny Desk Knitting with Emma. Today is Sunday, December 4th. I'm excited to share some stuff with you today. Mostly I'm going to talk about my experience re-knitting the second version of this reindeer sweater, which I am now in the midst of doing for my brother for Christmas. And I'm going to show you some progress on the Shetland cowl that I'm working on for my grandmother. And then we will do creations. So some dyed yarn and then spun yarn from this week. So yeah, I'm trying to get, I said this last time, but I was like, I'm trying to get a little bit more like regimented with like what I talk about in what order so that it's at least like easier for people to be like, I don't want to hear about that stuff. I'm going to stop now, or I'm going to fast forward. I don't do timestamps. I guess I could someday maybe put timestamps in if I understand ever how to do that. But okay, so let's talk about the sweater. So the reindeer sweater that I'm wearing, sweater from this Lopi book, Lopi number 36. You can buy this pattern individually on Ravelry as well. But I have a bunch of these Lopi spiral bound books with patterns and I really like them. So this is the reindeer sweater. Reindeer, which I assume is reindeer in Icelandic. So there's a 2-color version and then there's a 3-color version. So I've done a pretty faithful job knitting myself this red one here. Obviously I didn't use Lopi. It's meant to be knitted let Lopi. But I used the Woolly Thistles, got the Navia brushed, or not the brush traditions, just Navia Traditions yarn, which is like a worsted Aran weight yarn from the Faroe Islands. And I knitted this for the Woolly Thistles sweater cowl this fall. Yeah, I knitted it really fast. It only took me like a week to knit it. And I really enjoyed the yarn. It just flew. It's very woolly. So if you don't like to wear wool next to your skin, be careful with this. Although you could still wear it as outerwear. This is one of the only wools that I find it a little bit prickly next to my skin. So I wear a long sleeve t-shirt underneath. No problem. It is touching my neck. Sometimes I find it a little bit irritating, but it doesn't really bother me too much. If it was like, if I didn't have, you know, like a shirt on underneath this and it was touching a lot of my skin, I might be a little uncomfortable, but it's really warm and I like it. So just, you know, think about the recipient of the thing or you or your own, whatever preferences. It's a little more prickly, but I really enjoy it. One thing I will say is that the red, I washed this in hot water, which you're not really supposed to do it in your blocking knitwear, but like it softens things more. So sometimes I do it. What I forgot this time I was blocking was that hot water makes color more likely to bleed, and the red did bleed a little bit on the cuffs. It didn't really bleed on the yoke, which I'm really glad about. It's just kind of like lucky, but there's just like, you probably can barely see it. There's a couple of like little pink tints on the sleeves, which I just find charming. I think it's funny. This one, this tree, you can kind of see it's a little pink, but it's just a fun feature. But use cold water if you're knitting with one of the dyed colors of this Navia Traditions yarn and you block it. Use cold water. You should always block your knits, but you should use cold water certain times. I also, to soften really woolly and scratchy wool, sometimes put a little hair conditioner in the water, which you can do every time you wash it. But just wash, a hair conditioner, and wear. Those are the things that are gonna make wool feel softer too. So let's talk about the sweater. Okay, so this sweater is knit at a gauge of 18 stitches over 4 inches. I knitted the small, which is, this is like maybe slightly bigger than the gauge. I pretty much hit bang on the gauge for this one. Yeah, I think this one, I mean, it's a little oversized. I've probably got like 4 inches of positive ease on this. Not necessarily, you know, maybe 6, but it's kind of the oversized fit that I wanted. The idea here was that I was going to make matching ugly Christmas sweaters for me and my brother. And obviously they're not ugly. It's very beautiful, but it's kind of goofy, like the reindeer and the trees on the little cuffs. And I'm just like, I think it's really fun. And I've been meaning to do this for like years. And Ian, my brother, and I have been like joking about it for years. I'm like, one day I'm gonna knit us matching. And I don't think he expects it. He's gonna be really surprised when I show him. or when he opens it on Christmas. So for mine, no problems. I knitted the small size, which is, I'm very, accustomed to knitting Lopi sweaters or Lopi patterns with a variety of yarns. Lopi, Briggs & Little, Regal and Heritage, worsted weight yarns, all sorts of them, superwash ones, acrylic ones, whatever, for whoever is going to get this sweater. This was like the first type of yoke sweater that I did. I did a ton of them. I have a lot of these little spiral bound books. I have that Knitting with Icelandic Wool book. I've knitted so many Lopi patterns. So really familiar with my own size. Just, I knitted the one that I knew would fit me. But for the one for Ian, and you may have already heard me talk about this, this is the yarn I'm using. It doesn't have a label because I've taken it off and wound it up and unwound the sweater and unraveled the whole thing. This is just 100% wool. It came from a farm in Pennsylvania. It is, if you are familiar with Briggs & Little Heritage, which is a Canadian yarn, it's an Aran weight Canadian yarn. It is very, very similar to Briggs & Little Heritage in the content and in the twist and in the gauge, thickness, hand feel. If I didn't know that this wasn't Briggs & Little Heritage, I would assume it was. And I have knitted so many sweaters in Briggs & Little, so you can take my word for it. That's what, if you would like to get a yarn like this, you can get Briggs & Little. And Briggs & Little has a variety of lines. They have Heritage, which is Aran weight. They have Regal, which is more like a worsted weight. They have Sport, which is a sport weight, but it's single ply. They have Atlantic, which is, I think, bulky. They have like Tuffy, which is like a bulkier one with nylon. They have a Sock, which has nylon. It is single ply, but it has nylon. They have a bunch of yarns, and they're very economical. They're all from Canada, made with Canadian wool. You can get them in the US. I will link this in the show notes at Maritime Family Fibers. It's the US distributor. They're up in Maine. And Briggs & Little is in New Brunswick. So New Brunswick is right above Maine. If you are unfamiliar with Canadian geography, it is right above Maine. So they just go across the border, get it in their van, and bring it back, which is super simple and easy. You can get Heritage at Webb's in a few colors, like 9 or 10 colors, but they have a ton of colors. Although I will say that when I was in Canada a couple weeks ago, I learned from the folks at Romney Wools that Briggs & Little is having some slow production, and just it's hard to keep it. Maybe it's just hard to keep it stocked. You may not find all the neutrals that you might want. I basically went to Romney Wools, and I was like in Toronto, and I was like, I just need some like white Briggs & Little, and they didn't have any white. They had like a light brown, like this kind of color in the Heritage, but I was like, no, it's okay. I'll just get it from Maritime Family Fiber Arts next time I actually need it. So I got this at Maryland Sheep and Wool, and it was like $4 a skein or something, and it was just too good. I mean, I should have gotten 6 sweater quantities of this, and next year I probably will, just because it's like, I love these kinds of sweaters. They're not soft, but they're like great outerwear. But, excuse me, this wool is thicker than worsted. And it's thicker than Lopi. And I have knit a lot of sweaters at a gauge of 18 stitches over 4 inches with yarn like this. It hurts my hands. I have to use like a size 5 needle. And the fabric it makes is basically bulletproof. And I've said this before, like it's so thick and no air is gonna get in there. So if you want a really warm sweater for kind of outerwear, go for it. Knit this at a gauge of 18 stitches over 4 inches. It will keep you super warm. And I did this a bunch, and I don't do it anymore because it hurts my hands. So the first time I knitted this yarn, well, it was Heritage at a gauge of 16 stitches over 4 inches, was last year when I made Andrea Mowry throwover/throwback. So I made the throw over, but I steeped it into a throwback because I didn't want to knit it back and forth. And she has you use the 16 and 0.25 or whatever stitches over 4 inches. And I was like, yeah, that's better. It goes faster. It makes my hands hurt less. It's the right yarn and needle pairing. So I was like, okay, for this, that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to just knit a smaller size, which is what I did when I knitted Andrea Mowry's. No, I didn't. I knit that at the regular size because that was already supposed to be like that. But I just figured, okay, I'll just knit one size smaller. in this sweater for Ian. I did that, knitted a medium, and I finished the entire sweater, and I was like, this is way too big for him. Way too big. So probably not worth even finishing it or, blocking it or anything. Like, I was like, this is just too big. Too big. It needs to be knitted again. So I'm here to tell you how I figured out what to do. So the first thing I did was measure the whole sweater. So I measured the depth of the yoke that I had knitted, and it was 9 inches, and I thought it was deeper than 9 inches. So I'm really glad that I measured that, because this looks like a really deep yoke, but an inch is like bigger than you think, I think, in this kind of in like a depth. So like normally a yoke for me would be like 8 inches. This is only like 1 more inch than I'm used to. But I just was like, that's like an 11-inch yoke. Like anyway, it doesn't matter. But that was not true. So I measured it, and I was like, okay, it's not as, horizontal, or it's not as tall as I thought. So I asked Ian for his measurements. I said, I need you to take a sweater out of your closet. I need you to measure it across the front, armpit to armpit, but like under the yoke, like after the sleeves split off. And I need you to measure the collar all the way to the hem, and I need you to measure the collar all the way down the sleeve. Those are the only measurements I needed. So he told me that I think this is a little off, because he told me that from the collar to the hem was 23.5 inches. And I was like, no, Ian, you're way taller than that. It's probably more like 28. But maybe he has a really short sweater. But then he told me that from collar to sleeve, it was 32. And I was like, that's a little more like it. That might even be pushing it a little bit. It's probably more like 31. But across the front was 20. And I was like, okay. That's the one that I made for him was, so he's about 40 inches this way, and what I made was 48 inches that way. So it was gonna be like, he was gonna swim in it. And I'm okay if it's like if there's a few inches of positive ease. It might even have been 50. Like, it was just too much. It was just too big for him. It would have looked ridiculous. So I measured across the front to the measurement that he said, 20 inches across the front. And I saw how many that was, like how many stitches is in 20 inches. And it was like 75. And so I needed to have 2 times 75. The closest thing I could find to 2 times 75 as my count for the body stitches. So that turned out to be the extra small. So the absolute smallest size. So that's what I'm knitting now, is 3 sizes down from what I thought I was the size that he is. So that's fine. And it's less knitting, and so I'm going to use less yarn. It turned out also I had made the sleeves too short, so I have to make the sleeves actually longer. So that's fine. The body, I did count how many rounds it needed to be to get the right length, and so I've done that. So this is the body. That's done. I was like, it looks small. And so I put it on barber cords, and I measured it, and it was gonna fit totally fine. So this is the body. It's all done to the underarm. Yep, just re-knitted it. It's definitely pulling in at the bottom, but he's not very wide there, so that's fine. That's still attached to this big old ball of yarn. Rep UMBC all the time. I work at UMBC. Stands for the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, for those of you who don't know. Because it's funny, like most people like know state schools, like the University of Maryland, College Park, the like flagship state school, but most people don't know other ones. And then Maryland, there's a lot of them. So like it's so many people in Maryland go in state to their state public universities. But like people out of state don't really go to UMBC, which is kind of nice because, it means that people don't have to travel very far for like Thanksgiving or the holidays or anything. And a lot of people can commute, which is also really nice. So anyway, I like UMBC. Okay, so for the sleeves, I didn't want to take the whole sleeve out because I was like, I'd started with like 42 stitches around, and it like in the pattern, it's on the extra small, it says to start with 38. But I was like, nah, it doesn't matter. Like, it'll be a little bit wider at the sleeve, but he'll just be able to push the sleeves up. And there's color work at the bottom of the sleeve anyway. So I was like, instead of ripping all the way back to the bottom of the sleeve, I'm just gonna rip to the spot where I have the final number of stitches that I need, which is 64, because it says do your increases until you have 64 for the extra small, and then stop and knit flat until you have the right length. So that's what I'm doing instead. So I went back to about row 65, ended up having 66 stitches on the needles at that point, so I just decreased 2. And I have 5 or 6 more rows, I think, until I have the correct length of sleeve for Mr. Ian, my brother. There we go. I'm using Chow-Goo minis. I freaked out because I couldn't find the longest cord of my, this is the blue shorty set, not the minis, the shorties. I couldn't find the longest cord, and I was like, where is it? And then I realized that this one set of tips was gone, the size 4, and I realized it was in it's in a brioche hat project. I didn't have any size 4 16-inch needles, so I just started it with the 14-inch shorty tips. But now I have tips. I bought a bunch of tips at Magpie for this in 16-inch tips, and a cord, except then Hannah was like, I can't knit. I need to knit more hats for Christmas, but I don't have enough needles. And I told her she could borrow them, except I don't know if that will actually help, because she probably has the right needles. She just has them in projects already. So like in reality, what would be probably more helpful would be to finish those ones. I feel like I'm enabling somebody having too many whips and not finishing them. But that I might be wrong. She might just not have certain sizes. Yeah, I love that detail. There's so much heathering in this green yarn. It's so nice. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the little trees. I just, it's gonna be so cute matching. So his has the white background with the black, or the charcoal, like trees and reindeers. Mine has a black background with the white trees and reindeers, or the Shetland black, which is like a dark brown background with the very light grayish brown reindeers and stuff. So, yep, I've just got here's the other sleeve in here somewhere. It's the other sleeve. So you can see it's a much wider, like that is wider than, this is obviously bunched up, but it's wider than this. This is about 8 stitches wider, which that's a lot. 8 stitches is like, quite a few inches when your gauge is this big. Like that's between 2 and 3 probably inches more just hanging here. It would be annoying. So yeah, so that's my that's my whip that hopefully gets done quickly. So they give you 2 charts. I'm not going to show them because you can buy this pattern. They have the red chart or the red and gray chart for I'll just show you this. The red and the gray one is the body with the black background. And then the white reindeers, and then they have also a chart for the black sweater with the white background and the black reindeer. So I'm doing this chart with the body is green, but then the chart is white and black here. And then I will finish it in the white. I'm not gonna finish it or I guess I'll finish it in the charcoal. I'm not gonna finish it in the green. And I do add short rows to my Lopi sweater also. I always add short rows. So I'll turn around a little bit so you can see that the back is higher up. There's a bug. Let me squish it. Sorry, bud. I don't know if you could hear that. I just squished a bug against the wall. You can see there's some short rows in the back to make the back of the neck higher. Lopi patterns don't include this, and I didn't really understand short rows when I first started knitting them. And then I just started adding them because I knitted like a sweater or 2 that had the short rows, and I was like, let me try this. And then it fit much better. It didn't ride up on the neck so much, so I started adding them to all of my Lopi or the sweaters I make out of Lopi patterns. And I feel really bad for all my friends who got sweaters from me before I learned how to make short rows without it saying it in the pattern. So if you want to do this and you're knitting a bottom-up sweater, what you do basically is, so your marker will probably be at one shoulder at the back. If it's in the middle, it's really easy to do short rows. You just do short rows around the marker as you know, however you want to. Especially if it's a circular yoke, you don't have to worry about like raglans, increasing, decreasing, whatever. So I put it, like I lay it flat and I see there's the marker for that one, like for that shoulder. And then I find the same spot on the other shoulder and I just put like a locking stitch marker in there. And then I use those markers to place my short rows. So like I'll go like, 10 stitches past the marker, and then I'll go 6 stitches past the marker, and then I'll go 2 stitches past the marker, and then I'll go like 2 stitches before the markers. And then that's probably enough, like 8 back and forth, sometimes even 6. You can do more than that, but like with a larger gauge, 8 is my usual number. 8's like my usual number all the time. Sometimes 10 if it's like a fingering or sport weight sweater. But I usually go for, not that many. So, yeah, I think that's that. I am making yarn on the stove, or I'm dyeing some yarn. It's on the stove, and let's go into the creating, and I'll tell you I'll show you the gold yarn that I dyed last week that I didn't show you last time because it was on the stove, I think. Or maybe it was cooling, but it wasn't ready for the world. So right now I'm dyeing, overdying some like fuchsia fiber that I dyed a few years ago. I had like a ton. I had like 6 skeins of this like bright fuchsia worsted weight yarn, and I'm just like, I could knit like a really detailed cabled sweater in this, but I don't want that in this color. So I'm gonna overdye it to be Ravens purple. And so the Baltimore Ravens are a very good team this year, and they've been good for a couple of years. Thanks to the quarterback Lamar Jackson, I believe. I have never seen the Ravens play. I don't watch football. I really just find it boring. I will attend football games if people are like at someone's house, like I'll watch like the Super Bowl, but I just bring knitting and I'm really just there for the food. So I'm not like super into any of this, but I like to hang out and party with my friends, and so I will tailgate. So I actually am going to a tailgate today because there's a Ravens game later, and it's like the last regular game of the season, I think. So there's maybe it's not, because isn't there one on New Year's Day? I don't know if that's the regular season. Regardless, Ravens, Baltimore, people are really into them. And my friend Tyler and his wife Lindsay are having a baby in February, and they are huge Ravens fans. And so I'm overdying this fuchsia yarn to be like as close to Ravens purple as I can. It's very like it's not like a reddish purple, it's like a bluer purple. And I don't know if I don't have my regular deep purple dye. I don't know, I must have lent it to Sarah or something. I don't know where it is. I don't know where it would be, but I think I can. So I tried royal purple and black to overdye this fiber, and I don't actually think that's the right. I'm only dyeing 2 skeins and I have 6. I don't think that's the right combo. Hang on, I have to sneeze. So I don't think that's the right combination. The royal purple I think is too red, although maybe with the black it'll be fine. So next 2 skeins, it'll be like royal purple, but I'll put some like sapphire blue in there. Maybe instead of black. I'm gonna hold my nose for a second so that I don't sneeze again, because usually I sneeze twice. Okay, I think I've avoided it. Right now my nose is running. Okay. So yeah, so that's what I'm working on. Oh, I realized I forgot to show the other whip that I brought to show. This you've probably seen before if you've watched my channel, but it doesn't get shown very often, and it has been on my needle since February. And it is a Shetland cowl that I am knitting, that I've been knitting since February, and I've had a lot of ideas of what to do with it. I've thought about keeping it. I've thought about giving it to multiple different friends, and I'm gonna end up giving it to my grandma for Christmas. So it's really actually hard to see in this light because it's kind of blowing it out, but it's there you go. That's a good view. So I did design this pattern using just like Fair Isle pattern books. made an OXO chart here. So there's the lozenge, the O, and then the X. And so stylized X's and O's, stylized OXOs are, it's kind of like one of the big traditions in Fair Isle knitting. And you can really like get pretty stylized with your X's and O's. Sometimes you can't really tell that that's what they are, but it's kind of like a rounder shape and an X shape. And then these little guys in the middle are just Peries. So I'm using 4 different greens, 4 different greens and 4 different background colors, one of which is green. So there's like white, light green, light gray, and medium gray that go, and you change the colors at the same time. Some people don't change the colors at the same time. They'll shift the background and foreground colors like one row off. That actually looks really cool too. I just was like, this is simpler and I'll use the same amount of each yarn and it will just take less yarn total. So I figured I'd do that. So yeah, this is finally gonna get done. I need to do 3 more repeats and I did this one yesterday. So I know I can do it. And so the OXOs are offset. They're the same. It's the same lozenge and X, but they're offset by half. So like the X and the O line up. I think I'm probably gonna write this pattern up. It's really simple. It's gonna have just go around once and have a Mobius twist. So there's no shaping and there's just a Mobius twist. There's several patterns like this that you can find that I've said before. Mary Jane Mucklestone's Cowl from Fair Isle Weekend, which I think those patterns are gonna be individually purchasable like in the next week or 2. Gudrun Johnston has a Vari. I can't think of any others off the top of my head, but like there's, I have just like done this with, I've made 2 before that were just, I made the cowl from Fair Isle Weekend and then I was like, oh, that's a great shape. I'm gonna just use this. And like as just, okay, this is about how many you need around and this is about how long it needs to be and just go for it with charts. Sometimes I make the lozenges always different. Sometimes you can, it's really just like a great canvas. So I'll probably just publish this one so that, people can see for themselves how simple it is and how to design your own. Now that I have Jordan to lay patterns out, it just seems like a waste not to. Okay, so there's that. I need to go check the yarn on the stove. So this is not gonna interrupt you, but I'm just gonna interrupt me for a second. All right, it's all done. It was very quick. Sometimes yarn just soaks up the dye like that and it's just less annoying because you don't have to stir it until the citric acid dissolves. Okay, so let's talk about some things that I made this week. This is the most recent one. I just made this yesterday. My mom, I got her this wool in England. It was, I think, from Hillesfog. It's like Hillesfog Tinda or Soul or something. Hard to get in the US because I don't distribute here. And I got her 3 skeins and it was like a burnt orange. And she's like, get me a sweater quantity. So I got her a sweater quantity. And then she was like telling me last week in Toronto when I saw her that she was like, yeah, I really would like to knit this with like mohair. So I need to get some orange, or orange mohair. But I think I said, what do you want for Christmas? And she was like, oh, orange mohair. So I was like, great, I can make you that. So I did this yesterday. Mom, if you're watching, shut your eyes. She's not watching, she's grading. She has a lot to do. It smells really good because I washed it in Jasmine Wool Wash. It's still wet. I just rinsed it this morning, but it smells really good. And I had 3 skeins, so perfect for her. 3 skeins of fingering weight wool. So she can make a nice big sweater, like a tighter gauge woolen mohair sweater with this. I was really pleased with the color. Because I had to mix colors to get this, so I've mixed blazing orange, which is pretty bright, and black first. Mixed those in the pot, then I put the mohair in, and I let it go until it was bubbly, until I could hear it. And then I put into a tie-dye bottle, I put cayenne red, and I just like tie-dye bottled it all over the mohair, and I like stirred it with the other hand, and I poured in the dye like slowly with the precise tip into the pot so that it would ideally get kind of randomly on the yarn and also go in the water. And so just kind of do that, and then right after that I put the citric acid in. So that seemed to work pretty well. I did enjoy the outcome a lot. I was surprised at how much I liked it. Okay, so there's that. The other thing, I showed this last week, and if you don't recall, you will literally see it in the like thumbnail of last week's video, which I had to screenshot because none of the thumbnails were good. This is King Cole Cosmos in colorway Orbit, which is gold with gold sequins. And I got this in Toronto at Romney Wools. And I was like, that's so inexpensive because you get a ton. I mean, I only needed 2 of these cakes to get 4 to make a sweater with wool and mohair. But it was like, and it was like $10 Canadian. Then I found out that if you get in the US, it's like $4.95 a ball. And I was like, okay, well, with the exchange rate, it's still not that bad. And they had it, and it's hard to actually find it. They have this at Lovecrafts, but again, hard to find it. They only ever have a couple in stock of colors, and it's just frustrating. So as I said last week, I decided to dye wool and mohair to knit myself, similar to what Tracy from the Grocery Girls had knit with her glitter sweater. I wanted to knit myself a gold glittery sweater. So I actually dyed these in the same pot. This is the merino and this is the mohair silk. So you can really see that the mohair does not want to be as warm. Like this is more of a kind of like muted goldish tone, whereas this one is way warmer. It's like liquid gold. So to get this color, I mixed golden straw and chocolate brown. It was mostly golden straw. And then while it was simmering, I was like, this is not gold enough. So I put more golden straw just in the pot and just stirred it around. I just put the dry dye in the pot and stirred it. So together, these are my 3. So that's pretty fun. I am really excited about this. So much as I want to cast it on right now, I'm gonna wait until Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, whatever. And it's gonna be my Christmas to New Year's sweater. So I'm gonna try and finish it by New Year's Eve. And by finish it, I mean like blocked and everything. Although if it's the winter, especially in Vermont, it doesn't take things very long to block because you can block it over a heating vent and it will dry like in 2 hours. So shouldn't be an issue. But I'm so excited to knit this. I don't know if I want to knit like a V-neck or like a just like a raglan with little eyelets like Tracy did, which was so cute, or what, but I'm just like, I just want a gold glittery sweater. Like I need that. So I'm gonna make it. So that's awesome. Really, really stoked. And then I'll show you some spins. Okay, so I started spinning those Rolex and they kind of frustrated me because it's more like art yarn spinning. Like you get a lot of blips. It took me a while to get used to it and they were breaking and then I figured out kind of what to do. It is kind of fun, but I kind of lost interest pretty fast. I felt bad about that. I just was like, I don't want to, no. So that's okay. I also think that I might just spin them, just like, just work on them kind of whenever a few days, whenever I kind of feel like spinning a Rolex, and then I'll spin like a whole bobbin and then I'll just chain ply it or something. Cause I kind of chain plied just like a little bit of singles yesterday, of like one bobbin that was a little bit left over and I really enjoyed it. So that was fun. So I was like, maybe I don't actually like chain plying very much, but it's kind of satisfying. And I think I'm a little bit better at it than I was the first time I tried when I kept getting little pigtails because they were like not caught properly. So I might just spin Rolex and chain ply them to make something really crazy because all the Rolex are crazy and that would be just fun. So I might do that. So what I decided to spin instead was, okay, so at Frederick Fiber Fest, I probably showed this like 4 or 5 weeks ago. No, that was 2 months ago. Okay, 8 weeks ago-ish. After Frederick Fiber Fest. So I got at Frederick Fiber Fest some roving and I got Shetland roving from one stall. I think I got 4 ounces of the Shetland black and I got 4 ounces of the white Shetland. So the Shetland black, the woman who was there, I don't remember what farm it was, and I'm sorry about that. But we chatted for a while and I said, I usually dye fiber, but like I really love the Shetland black. And she says, I think you could dye the Shetland black, like over dye it, like jewel tones or something, it would look so pretty. And I was like, okay, twist my arm. So I decided to dye it. And you can see here that there are several colors. There are actually two purples. There's like a more reddish purple, and then there's also a darker purple, but it's too hard to see the darker purple. And then there's a green and there's a blue, which you can see like all through here. Yeah, green, blue, purple, all sorts of stuff in here. Yeah. And there's actually 2 skeins of this because there's only about 60 grams of this total, but it just broke in the middle applying, and so I just made 2 skeins. But I just thought this was just like amazing, like the way that it looks just like dark color if you hold it back here, but then if you look close, it's like, what? That's amazing. I was just, this light is actually really good for showing this, shockingly. It's good for something. Yeah, I just can't get enough of this. I'm so excited. So that is dope. Very, very good. Very pleased with this outcome. Definitely a lot of veg matter, VM. You can kind of see it. It got kind of on my, pants while I was spinning it, which was funny. And it definitely was not totally combed all the like little nubbles, nups, whatever, blips out. So it's not totally even, but I don't mind. I can't spin that evenly anyway. So like, it's just fun. It's not like art yarn, but it's, yeah, it's just like fun. So people are always like, what are you gonna do with that? I'm like, I don't know. I haven't even washed these yet. So, jury's still out. Okay, so then yesterday I meant to spin more John Arbon yarn, and I got the second John Arbon package that they resent, which was super nice of them. And I meant to spin another John Arbon top, but then I wanted to spin barber pole yarn because, I don't know, just like I saw like lilac down there. Like I went downstairs to go get some fiber, and I have just this big bag of like different colored fiber. Like I have the undyed fiber and then I have the dyed fiber in 2 different bags. The undyed one is getting a lot lighter. I keep dyeing it. So I had that, and then I went down and I just saw like this lilac color of roving, and I was like, I want to spin that. And I thought, let's do a barber pole. So I got lilac, I got like a darker deep purple, I got some burgundy, and I got some magenta. And it was magenta on gray, which I really like. It's a gray Corriedale, because I got a pound of that from Blue Moon Alpacas a while back. So this is the outcome, and I'm obsessed with it. It really looks, there's a lot of the light purple in it. It's quite heavy on the lilac, which was kind of what I was going for. That's the only like lightish color in here anyway, so it kind of makes it a little bit more balanced in terms of color. But it's quite barber pole-y, which is what I want, obviously. But I really just feel like I've set out to do something, which is make something like this, and I've managed to do it in like not that long, and I'm pretty excited about that. And I mean, it's not like, you get to this far and you're like, great, I stop. Like, I'm not gonna stop. I would like to keep improving my spinning skills, but I'm really pleased at how much I've had to work really hard at this. I've had to do it a lot. But how, like, I have kind of managed to get to a point where this is what I wanted, was barber pole yarn like this. So I don't know what I'm going to do with this one either. I was thinking about making mittens or like keeping socks with it. My friend Lila really likes purples and pinks, and so I might make something for her. I don't know, that'd be too scratchy. She doesn't like scratchy things. I don't know if she would be able to wear this, but I think it's really fun. Yeah, so I'll probably not do color work with this because you could do it with white, but the light purple is not going to be super high contrast with white, and then the like darker colors are not going to be super high contrast with like black. So you'd have to do it with like, yeah, it would just be hard to get enough contrast in a skein with this much variation. So this is kind of one of those things where it's like, maybe if you're doing like every other round stripes, that would be kind of fun or something. But honestly, I think it's more likely to be that this will become like a one colored thing, like socks or a hat or 2. Maybe you could stripe it, yeah, maybe mittens, I don't know. I'd probably make a hat and mittens with this skein because it's like sport weight and there's like almost 300 yards on it. That's about 100 grams. It smells good because I washed it in jasmine wool wash, all the fiber was rinsed in jasmine wool wash. I haven't washed any of these yet. I tend to get like 3 or 4 skeins done and then I just wash them all to save water because it's not like I'm gonna knit with them right away. I do batches. So I think I'm gonna start another spin today. And I don't know what. Jordan has a buddy who likes knitting, like a family friend. And so she said, you know, maybe would I be able to like commission you to spin a yarn for her? And I was like, yes, of course. Like you can design it. And Jordan is, you know, professional. So she's great with colors. So I'm really excited to see what Jordan chooses for that. But I'd like to get that kind of going today, but she's not feeling super well. So I don't know if we're gonna see her a lot. She doesn't have COVID, thank God. Her boyfriend has been sick for like a week and she's starting to get, we think, whatever he had, and I think based on her symptoms, she probably has RSV, and that's probably what he had, or the flu. And yeah, Hannah and I've had flus and booster shots, and Jordan has not done that yet, so I think maybe, but it would be sad if it were the flu because she's supposed to go on a work trip next weekend for like a week. She has 2 big things. She has her first competitive Pictionary, well, it's super art fight. She has her first super art fight performance on the next Saturday, and then on Sunday she's going to Las Vegas for her work trip for a week. So I'm really hoping she's at least better by then, and that also whatever she has we don't get, because that would be rough. But anyway, I'm super pleased with this skein. I'm so pleased. I want to knit with it right away, but I'm not going to do that. I'm getting my Nest fiber probably next week sometime, but they post spoilers, and in the first one it'll be like a black and white photo. It's like swipe to see the color, but like Instagram does this thing where if you don't like react to a photo, they'll show it to you, and there's like more than one photo in the series. They'll show it to you again, and they'll show you the second photo in the series. I should have just liked it because then they wouldn't have shown it to me again, but because they did, and then it was like the second slide, so I saw that color. But it was really pretty, so that's nice. But it's on Rambouillet. I love Rambouillet, is so soft, but I don't actually like spinning it because it's too bouncy. Like, I'm sure if I were like a woolen spinner, maybe I'll like try woolen spinning this Rambouillet. Like, why not? But maybe that would be fun. I don't know. That'd be cool. Anyway, I don't really have anything else to share, but I'm gonna go dig through my fiber stash now and decide what to spin next. Maybe a top. Maybe I'll do a John Arbin top. But I'm thinking of doing a blue series next. This is, purples mostly, and a little bit of pink. I'm thinking about doing a blue or a green. All greens. I've been doing a lot of like stuff with pinks and purples. I feel like I've done a lot of that recently. So I'll branch out a little bit, maybe yellow and green. That would be fun. I have so much dyed fiber, and I never like get the same fibers to spin together. I don't know if people are curious about that. Like, combo spins are usually like, that's a term people use, but it's more for like you spin like one strand of this and one strand of that, and then you apply them together. You like one of this, one of this, one of this, and you apply them all together. Like, it's a combination of fibers, but it's they're usually like single plies. But for me, I just get all of my fibers, and I'm like, great, this, and this, and I just break it in pieces, and I weigh it out so I have half and half, and then I just like go randomly in like smallish pieces so that there's like plenty of color changes. And I have to say, I really like doing that. So I don't think it matters that I use different fibers. I mean, for somebody who was like hardcore about it, maybe it would matter to them, but I'm like, I can't tell the difference. I honestly can't. So yeah, I'm just pleased that it's gotten less ropey. It was pretty ropey a month ago or so when I was still getting used to the matchless Thelma. I finally put proper shacked drive bands on Thelma. This week I put a drive band on her. I might try out Scotch tension, but I really like double drive. I'm like, I don't know. If I get an electric eel wheel, that's a Scotch tension wheel. It's electric, but it does use Scotch tension. It has a spring and a brake and stuff. So I might just decide whether I like the Scotch tension and just use that for Scotch tension. I really want one, but they're out of stock right now. So I'm gonna get one when they come back in. But I've been, I was thinking I was gonna get it and like ship it to my parents' house so that I could have a wheel at home over the holidays. But because it's so small, I could just put it in my suitcase. But I don't think they're gonna be back in stock till late December. So once they are, I'll probably just get it and ship it to here, because I'm gonna be at home until I'm coming back around the 6th of January, like Friday the 6th early in the morning. So yeah, I'm gonna be home for almost 3 weeks. So it's a nice long visit. I like to go home for a long time so I can see everybody and also kind of get sick of it and then be really excited to go back to my life. Although the longer you stay somewhere, like the longer I'm in Baltimore, the like harder it is to stay at home for so long, because I'm like, I need to go back and see blah blah and blah blah and blah blah. Like you have like a life and you miss your friends, and it's weird. A lot happens when people leave for so long. So yeah, I'm just playing with this piece of rope thing, yarn that I just broke off, because I was like, that's not totally drafted, and I was like, let me play with that. Sorry, now I'm just going crazy. Clearly that's what happens when you wake up at, oh gosh, I went to bed really early last night. Like I went to bed like before 10, but I woke up at like 3:45, and I couldn't go back to sleep. So I got up at 5:15 probably. So I've been awake for a lot of hours. It's now like pushing 8, I think. Yeah, 7:56. So I'm gonna go look through my fiber collection and maybe start a new spin, because I've been working on this. I've been working on the green sleeve since 5:15. So my project today is to get the sleeves done and then join the sleeves to the body, but I have it's a long day. It's been a chill weekend because again, Jordan has not been feeling well, and so I stayed home yesterday. Hannah and I went grocery shopping, but otherwise, like I really just went like for a walk with Jordan, and then I went grocery shopping with Hannah, and I was just kind of home because we didn't know if Jordan had COVID or anything, and so I was like, let's just be safe. Yeah, today we were all planning to be home for dinner and stuff. Last night I made meatballs and spaghetti and meatballs and marinara sauce, and my mom got me this Food 52 cookbook that's really good for my birthday, and I used their meatball recipe and I used their red sauce recipe, and it was so good. So I will maybe I'll just link those 2 recipes because they're probably on Food 52, which is a free website. So I'll just link the recipes. If you like spaghetti and meatballs. If you don't, I'm so sorry. You could just make spaghetti and marinara sauce. It's not vegan. It's got a lot of butter in it, but it was basically you just put a can of tomatoes in the pot with salt. You take an onion, you take off the skin, and you just cut it in half. Stick that in, and then like half stick of butter, and then you just cook it for you just simmer it for like 45 minutes. And it's supposed to be done by then, but mine was not done. It was done, but it was like I stick blended it. I took some of the onion out. I didn't blend all of the onion in, but I just immersion blended, so it was like pretty smooth. And boy, was that good. And then I made the meatballs, and you like make the meatballs, you fry them, and then you put them in the sauce and just cook them for like 15 minutes in the sauce, warm it all up together, and then put the spaghetti. Oh, it's so good. So I'm a big fan of spaghetti and meatballs. I didn't think that I was until a couple of years ago, and then I had them like, I don't know if somebody made them or I was just eating them at an Italian restaurant, because I was like, this is like a simple thing to get. And now I always, if I'm like at an Italian restaurant, especially like a nice one, I always get them. I think the first place I had them as like an adult, I wasn't with spaghetti, but I had meatballs at this place that I went with Monica in Philly for her graduation. From Curtis. It's called Little Nona's, and if you are in Philadelphia, it is on Locust and 12th Streets. You can make a reservation. My parents and I went there a few months ago when we were in Philly. They were like, let's go somewhere, and my mom was like, I'll make a reservation. And I was like, no, please let me do this. Like, she was like, I want Italian food. It's like Philly. And I was like, you don't know where the Italian food is. She was like, I don't know. It doesn't look like, it's not in South Philly. And I was like, oh, you need to let me tell you that this is the right place. And she was very impressed. It was really good. So we went there for like, it was like lunch after graduation, and we had meatball subs, and it was like really fancy meatball subs. Like it was like this really fancy Italian. It wasn't fancy, but like really like not like a hoagie like that you get at the Wawa. At the Wawa. If you're from Philly, Wawa. So anyway, yeah, I'm gonna go spin and might watch some Christmas movies. We watched Elf last night, and I watched Elf for the first time when I was 10, because that's how old I was when Elf came out. And every time I watch it, I see it with 10-year-old eyes, and I just find that really delightful. Like I will never not like completely crack up at like every scene in that movie. Yeah, Will Ferrell is really funny. Anyway, I'm just rambling now, so I'm gonna go do some stuff and go tailgate at the Ravens in a couple hours. So yeah, like and subscribe. Hit the bell if you want to be notified when I post. Almost always my episodes go up on Tuesdays in the morning. Like sometimes I schedule it for 10 a.m. if I like do it in advance, but sometimes I'm just doing a show notes on Tuesday morning and I just hit publish when I'm done. So sometimes it's as early as like 7. But yeah, that's all. I think that's all. So yeah, thank you for watching. This has been Tiny Desk Knitting with Emma. Bye!